Hello, all you freedom-loving people. The Pentagon will host a rare meeting of top U.S. military leaders, prompting speculation of a purge, while the federal government directed agencies to plan for layoffs. And Kash gave more details on the ICE attack. Okay, let's get into it. Today, FBI Director Kash revealed that the gunman who opened fire at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Texas sought real terror for agents. And he searched apps that tracked the presence of ICE personnel. Joshua John was identified as the shooter who fired from a rooftop toward the ICE facility. It turns out that he killed one detainee and injured two others. As we reported yesterday, the shooter died after turning the gun on himself. The DHS said that from a nearby rooftop, John allegedly fired indiscriminately at the ICE building as well as at a van in the Sallyport where the victims were shot. The three detainees were in an unmarked transport van when they were shot before John took his own life. Authorities said that he was found dead with a rifle on a nearby rooftop. And today, Kash wrote on X. One of the handwritten notes recovered read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror to think, is there a sniper with AP armor-piercing rounds on that roof?" Patel also said that the gunman searched for videos of Charlie Kirk's assassination before his attack in Texas. Patel wrote he conducted multiple searches of ballistics and the Charlie Kirk shot video between September 23rd and 24th. Between August 19th and 24th, he searched apps that tracked the presence of ICE agents. Patel also said that the shooter downloaded a document titled Dallas County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, containing a list of DHS facilities. Further accumulated evidence to this point indicates a high degree of pre-attack planning. And in other news today, the Washington Post reported that next week the Pentagon is hosting a meeting of top U.S. military leaders from across the globe. The meeting is reportedly scheduled for September 30th at the base in Quantico, Virginia. There are about 800 general-level officers in the armed forces, including 44 at the most senior 4-star level. But there's no word yet on how many will be called in or what the meeting is really about. A meeting of this size and scope is highly unusual and would usually take place via a secure video teleconference. The Pentagon has confirmed the meeting but did not offer any details. The chief Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell said in a statement that War Secretary Pete Hegseth will be addressing his senior military leaders early next week. With so few details, some people are worried that this meeting could signal a looming purge. Hegseth has previously said that he wants to cut 20% from senior generals and admirals. In May, Hegseth issued a directive to slash about 100 generals and admirals, along with a 20% minimum cut for 4-star officers. He ordered an additional 10% reduction in general and flag officers across the military. According to Hegseth, there are currently 44 4-star and flag officers across the military, making it a ratio of 1 general to 1,400 troops, compared to the ratio during World War II of 1 general to 6,000 troops. This upcoming meeting coincides with a big shift. The War Department is prioritizing homeland defense at the top and is stepping back from their Indo-Pacific focus. So that plan could soon reshuffle U.S. troops at bases around the world. And the federal government may also need to do some reshuffling. Yesterday, the White House Budget Office sent out a memo and directed the federal agencies to consider preparing reduction in force notices for a portion of their employees if there happens to be a government shutdown. This is because the September 30th funding deadline approaches without a clear congressional funding path. The GOP continuing a resolution which the House passed last week with support from one Democrat aims to extend current federal funding levels through November 21st. Republicans argued that the resolution would allow more time for negotiations on a full-year spending bill. But the majority of the Senate Democrats opposed the resolution. It's not enough to pass with the Republican majority and just one Democrat. The resolution needs 60 votes, which means that more Democrats need to vote for it. And if they won't, Congress cannot approve funding for the new fiscal year by October 1st. So the federal government will be forced into a shutdown. The memo stated that, unfortunately, congressional Democrats are signaling that they intend to break this bipartisan trend and shut down the government in the coming days over a series of insane demands, including $1 trillion in new spending. So the White House Budget Office told the agencies to get ready. If funding runs out on October 1st, they may need to issue reduction in force notices for workers paid with discretionary funds. The memo made it clear that programs without mandatory funding boosts would take the hardest hit in the shutdown. According to the memo, if a shutdown hits and backup funding like H.R. 1 isn't there, employees that are tied to programs outside the priorities of the Trump administration could be left without support. The memo said that when 2026 funding is in place, then agencies should adjust their reduction in force in order to keep only the staff that are needed for essential legal duties. But some departments will not be affected. Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits, military operations, law enforcement, and air traffic control are funded by mandatory appropriations. So they will not be affected in the case of a shutdown. The Office of Management and Budget says that it has already held its first shutdown planning call, and it will roll out updated contingency plans as the fiscal year deadline gets closer. The White House Agency Contingency Plan website is currently blank. And for now, it's unclear what federal services could be impacted by the shutdown. But based on the memo, the White House remains hopeful that Democrats in Congress will not trigger a shutdown and the steps outlined above will not be necessary. In exchange for their backing of a resolution to keep the government open, Democrats have demanded an extension in subsidies for low and middle income Americans who purchased health insurance through the Affordable Care Act, which is also known as Obamacare. But President Trump rejected their demands, and he canceled a planned White House meeting with Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries to discuss their demands. In a True Social post, President Trump wrote, "They are threatening to shut down the government of the United States unless they can have over $1 trillion in new spending to continue free health care for illegal aliens, a monumental cost, force taxpayers to fund transgender surgery for minors, have dead people on the Medicaid rolls, allow illegal alien criminals to steal billions of dollars in American taxpayer benefits." Today, Turkish President Erdogan met President Trump at the White House. Talking with reporters after their meeting, President Trump once again said that he won't accept the demands by Democrats, even if it prevents a shutdown.
They asked us to do something that's totally unreasonable. They never change. They want to give money away to illegally people that entered our country illegally. They want to give them massive federal money. And we don't want to do that because it means everyone's going to just keep pouring back. Right now we have absolutely perfect borders like you haven't seen in many years. Even better than I had great borders during my 4 years, but these borders are stone cold closed. You can only come into our country legally now.
On Wednesday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that the U.S. and China have been locked in a standoff over trade negotiations. Both sides will hold another round of trade talks in October and November. However, the U.S. holds key leverage. China has previously used rare earths as a countermeasure against the United States. During an interview with Fox News on Wednesday, host Maria Bartiromo also raised this issue, and Scott Bessent said this is nothing to worry about. We're not without levers on our side. We have plenty of products that they depend on us for. He was referring to aircraft engines, parts, chemicals, plastics, and silicone ingredients. He also noted that China relies on the United States for many products, which is why the two sides have been locked in a standoff. These levers are likely to give the Trump administration an upper hand in reaching a broad trade agreement with Beijing. On Thursday, White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said that the U.S. has made enormous progress on trade talks with China in the last few months, but considerable work remains. Hassett said, "I feel like, compared to a few months ago, we made enormous amounts of progress. Negotiations between the United States and China over the Boeing aircraft deal have entered their final stages, with the transaction potentially becoming the core of the broader trade agreement." The Trump administration has consistently supported the development of AI. In January of this year, President Trump convened CEOs of major tech companies to launch the Stargate initiative. Let's take a look at recent developments in the AI industry. Today, the Trump administration announced that it will be using Elon Musk's Grok chatbot, which is based on AI. According to a statement from the General Services Administration, the GSA, federal agencies will gain access to Grok 4 and to Grok 4 Fast Service until March of 2027. The GSA released a statement by Musk that said, thanks to President Trump and his administration, xAI's Frontier AI is now unlocked for every federal agency. We look forward to continuing to work with President Trump and his team to rapidly deploy AI throughout the government. The GSA said that allowing access to AI tools would enable the Trump administration to modernize federal government operations, from predictive analytics in government acquisition to intelligent automation in administrative processes. Thursday's announcement from Musk and the GSA came just days after Musk met with President Trump at the memorial for Charlie Kirk in Arizona. Elon Musk and President Trump sat next to one another at one point and shook hands. And OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank announced on Tuesday that they will add 5 large AI data centers in the United States in order to advance their ambitious Stargate initiative. The plan allocates up to $500 billion to build AI infrastructure, ensuring that the United States maintains an advantage in future AI competition. OpenAI announced that it will engage in deep collaborations with Oracle and SoftBank. Among these, the 3 new data centers developed in partnership with Oracle are located in Shackelford County, Texas, Donna Ana County, New Mexico, and an undisclosed location in the Midwest. And SoftBank will develop 2 additional sites in Lordstown, Ohio, and Milam County, Texas. OpenAI stated that with the announcement of these projects, the total capacity of the Stargate data centers will reach nearly 7 gigawatts within the next 3 years. On Monday, NVIDIA and OpenAI announced a milestone strategic intent agreement to deploy at least 10 gigawatts of NVIDIA systems for OpenAI's next-generation AI infrastructure. These systems will train and run OpenAI's next-generation models to achieve the goal of deploying super intelligence. NVIDIA will make a strategic investment of up to $100 billion for this effort. This partnership could not only set a record as the largest single investment in a private company in history, but also it could tie NVIDIA's fate to that of OpenAI, which is the hottest AI company today. Upon the news, NVIDIA's stock price surged nearly 4%, pushing its market capitalization to a record high of nearly $4.5 trillion. Yet, behind the applause for this seemingly win-win alliance of industry giants lie profound questions about industrial concentration, financial cycles, and the limits of infrastructure. According to the joint statement, this massive investment will be made in phases. NVIDIA will contribute $10 billion in cash for each gigawatt of computing power deployed by OpenAI in exchange for equity. Based on OpenAI's recently reported $500 billion valuation, the first phase alone would grant NVIDIA approximately a 2% stake. Insiders reveal that throughout the entire construction process, OpenAI's total expenditure on purchasing NVIDIA chips will exceed $100 billion. In other words, part of this investment will flow back to NVIDIA. During an interview with CNBC, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang described the partnership as the next leap in AI. He emphasized that the deal would generate additional sales revenue for NVIDIA, with the projected sale of 5 million GPUs alone equating to roughly the company's total shipment for the entire year of 2025. Moreover, this move will make OpenAI more reliant on NVIDIA's hardware ecosystem, thereby reducing its incentive to develop its own chips. Sam Altman, the co-founder and CEO of OpenAI, said, "Everything starts with a compute. Compute infrastructure will be the basis for the economy of the future, and we will utilize what we're building with NVIDIA to both create new AI breakthroughs and empower people and businesses with them at scale." Recent developments have highlighted the growing trend of inbreeding within Silicon Valley. Just days ago, NVIDIA announced a $5 billion investment in its former rival, Intel, to bolster the U.S. domestic chip manufacturing industry. Now, NVIDIA's alliance with OpenAI further intertwines the destinies of the world's most valuable publicly traded company, NVIDIA, with the largest privately held tech company in the U.S., OpenAI, with Microsoft, the world's second highest market cap company, which was OpenAI's earliest and most significant investor. This mutual investment and collaboration among tech giants is increasingly making the current AI-driven stock market frenzy dependent on the shared interests of just a few companies. And NVIDIA may be the biggest winner in this scenario. Not only does it sell chips to major AI companies, but it also leverages its growing cash flow to make substantial investments in clients that are reliant on its chips. These include cloud computing startup CoreWeave, AI application developers xAI and Perplexity, and the robotics company Figure. However, the scale and structure of this deal have also drawn cautious scrutiny from Wall Street. The core concern centers on circular dynamics. Simply put, NVIDIA invests in OpenAI, which then uses that funding to purchase chips from NVIDIA. This effectively transforms NVIDIA's cash on its balance sheet into new revenue. Michael Casumano, a professor at MIT's Sloan School of Management, bluntly told the Financial Times that this deal feels a bit like a reshuffle, with NVIDIA investing $100 billion and OpenAI also declaring it will spend over $100 billion on NVIDIA chips. This collaborative model raises questions about how much of its revenue growth stems from genuine market demand versus how much results from internal capital circulation within the industry. Despite substantial funding from NVIDIA, OpenAI's development also faces challenges. The Economist notes that this monumental gamble between NVIDIA and OpenAI has propelled the future of the AI industry to new heights while simultaneously laying its risks and uncertainties to bear. Energy, funding, and technology, these three major challenges were acknowledged by Altman when announcing the collaboration. Let's first address the challenges of power and infrastructure. What does a 10 gigawatt power demand mean? It's nearly equivalent to the peak electricity consumption of the entire New York City, or half of the total new power generation capacity added to the United States during the first half of 2025. Meanwhile, electricity prices in the United States are rising at a rapid pace. According to the latest Consumer Price Index released by the U.S. government, electricity prices have risen by more than 30% over the past 4 years, which is more than double the overall inflation rate. The Energy Information Administration projects that this trend will continue through 2026. The growing energy demands of AI data centers are one reason for rising electricity costs. According to data from the U.S. Department of Energy, data centers consumed approximately 4% of the nation's total electricity in 2023, but this proportion could rise to 12% by 2028. To resolve this issue, more power supply systems need to be built. Even in the United States, where infrastructure approval systems are relatively lenient, constructing a power supply system of this scale could take years. This is not merely a matter of funding, but also presents enormous challenges in terms of energy, land, and regulatory hurdles. Funding is also a challenge. Despite having over 700 weekly active users and annualized revenue approaching $13 billion, OpenAI remains in a loss-making state. This is because its expenditure commitments have become increasingly staggering, far exceeding its revenue. In addition to its $100 billion plan with NVIDIA, OpenAI had previously signed a $300 billion computing power procurement agreement with Oracle. The third challenge is the bottleneck in technology breakthroughs. The advancement of AI cannot be driven solely by piling on computational power. The market response to OpenAI's latest model, GPT-5, has been less enthusiastic than anticipated, prompting concerns among some that AI model development is hitting a bottleneck. Recently, critics have grown increasingly concerned that the surge in AI capital expenditure may fuel market bubbles, drawing parallels to the dot-com bubble of 25 years ago. Sam Altman acknowledged that there are signs of a bubble forming. He warned last month that investors are overly excited about AI, predicting that some startups and investors will get burned. There have always been differing opinions on the development of AI. Can AI truly reduce the burden on humans and provide a better, higher quality life? According to a September 22nd analysis that was published in the Harvard Business Review, AI tools in the workplace result in lower productivity due to employees using AI tools to create substandard output. The report said, a confusing contradiction is unfolding in companies embracing generative AI tools. While workers are largely following mandates to embrace the technology, few are seeing it create real value. This study was conducted by researchers from the Stanford Social Media Lab and BetterUp, a behavioral research organization. The research found out that employees were using the AI tools to create low-effort, passable-looking work that ended up generating more work for other employees. Researchers defined AI-generated work content that masquerades as good work, but lacks the substance to meaningfully advance a given task as work slop. According to the report, the receiver of work slop is burdened with interpreting, correcting, and redoing the work. The study surveyed 1,150 full-time employees in the United States, with 40% of respondents reporting that they had received work slop in the past month. The study said the phenomenon occurs mostly between peers, 40%, but work slop is also sent to managers by direct reports, by 18%. The most notable impact is on professional and scientific fields. The report also reads, 16% of the time, work slop flows down the ladder from managers to their teams, or even from higher up than that. Work slop occurs across industries, but we found that professional services and technology are disproportionately impacted. If the advice offered by professionals cease to be professional and becomes manipulated by AI, and the data that researchers rely on to draw conclusions is no longer authentic, are our lives gradually being controlled by AI and false conclusions? Moreover, once humans become dependent on AI, their intelligence and creativity may also decline. On the other hand, if AI is able to do many of the tasks, such as in the government, perhaps this will then save us extra time and money. The study also revealed approximately half of the people they surveyed viewed colleagues who sent work slop as less creative, capable, and reliable than they did before receiving the output. The study said 42% saw them as less trustworthy and 37% saw that colleague as less intelligent. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.